Hello, everybody. It's Suzanne Evans, and we are coming to you live from the Carolina Inn in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And I think that I heard this once on a spooky movie. I am not alone. I am with a room full of people right behind this camera. Say hello, everybody.
Hello.
There's a lot of them. I see business people. We are here, and I am doing a BAM, which I do on occasion, which is a mastermind experience with usually around 12 business owners, and we walk them through their business step by step in hot seats and in some training. And you have joined us in our training part of our BAM, and so so it's all right. Lori is so excited to watch me twice that she's got me in the background. So hi, Lori. I see that you're there. You're here and you're there. I love it. So I'm going to teach on something that is one of my most favorite teachings, and there's a couple of reasons that I love this teaching. One is because I'll ask in the room, and those of you joining me on Facebook Live, any basketball fans in the room?
Yeah.
College basketball fans? 2. This is one of the things, 3, 2.5. Okay, I say this all the time. You know how they say find your people? Every time I go into one of my big rooms and I'm like, where are the college basketball fans? And I'm in a room of 400 people and 3 people raise their hand. I go, I still have not found my people, right? So we're in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, which is... some people would like to say we're in college basketball center of the universe, Mecca. Carolina. So here's who played last night. Duke, Carolina, and NC State played last night, and they all are local teams, all within a 10-mile radius of each other. I am an NC State fan. They beat Notre Dame. I am not a Carolina fan. They lost. Although the valet gentleman this morning barely parked my car because he knows I'm a huge State fan and we've known each other for a long time. And I was like, last night, and he goes, you can park your car yourself, ma'am. And Duke also won, beat Georgia Tech last night. So I'm a huge college basketball fan, and some other time I'll do a Facebook Live on Jimmy Valvano, who has been is still my hero for the greatest coach to ever live, but pretty much in second place is a phenomenal, incredible man by the name of John Wooden. Anybody in this room know who John Wooden was?
Yes.
Somebody say.
UCLA.
UCLA. So coach for 35 years. I don't know the exact time, but he was the head coach for UCLA. And what he really became known for was winning, because that's what most coaches are known for. But actually his was leadership. Has anybody read any of his books? Phenomenal books on leadership. So people in this room, write this down. People on Facebook Live, write this down. Also, while you're waiting to write this down and waiting for this content, tell me what your favorite sports team is, if you have one, in the chat below, because I love sports. Well, I don't. I hate football. But I love all other sports. So I'd love to know who your sports team is. And if you're a basketball team fan or if you're a college sports fan, definitely tell me that, because I am very competitive and I would like to dog you on the internet. So he was famous for his leadership. My favorite book he wrote was John Wooden on Leadership. And get that one, those of you in the room and watching. One of the reasons that I think that is one of the best books is it has his notes from practices, his handwritten notes in the book and pictures of them. So one of the things he did for 35 years, you're practicing like 5 days a week for at least 7-8 months of the year. He wrote notes before practice and he wrote notes post practice. And it was his practice, right? So he took these intense notes about what his intention for the practice was going to be, and then he took these intense notes of how his leadership style played out with his students and with his players. And so he created something called the Pyramid of Success, and he wrote about it. It's in his books. And so this is John Wooden, and it is pyramid of success. Those of you on Facebook Live, we'll take a picture of this. I'll have my team take a picture of this and put it in the comments so you can see it up close. I know it's probably a little bit difficult to see, but it's called the Success Pyramid. Now, if you guys right now at home Google John Wooden's Success Pyramid, you will get his. This is not his because it's my version, entrepreneurial version of his Success Pyramid. So I've studied his Success Pyramid over the years and then kind of created my own for entrepreneurs. So here's the deal. Everyone is aiming for one thing in business and in life, and that is really the top of the pyramid here, which is competitive greatness. This is not the type of competitive greatness that means competitors. It's not the type of competitive greatness that means, I'm trying to win. It is self, right? It is about self. It is, am I performing at my best? Am I playing at my best? Am I running at my best? And so this entire pyramid is really based in how do you get to competitive greatness? And in this case, obviously, we're talking about in business, right? And in entrepreneurship. And so I'm going to walk this room and all of our Facebook Livers through the pyramid. The important part is for you to understand that this entire pyramid is required of you, right? For you to be successful, this entire pyramid is required of you. Some things on this pyramid you'll be nailing. Right? You'll be nailing it. You'll have it. Some of these things you'll be failing in miserably. And so when I ask you, are you where you want to be? And I would think most everybody's going to say no because we're all wanting to grow. The reason is something you're missing in this pyramid. Now, a lot of people would go, well, no, it's leads, right? Or no, it's sales something, or it's I don't know my message, or it could be a million things. The bottom line is that is correct. It could be leads, it could be your sales, it could be your message, it could be that you have a lousy business model, but you have no sales, no leads, a lousy business model because of one of these, or because of some of these. So that's kind of why we're going to go through this. So I'm going to walk you through. Some are obvious, some take a little more explanation. So I'm going to walk you through these and explain some of these. And then we're going to tap into where are your deficiencies in this pyramid. Right? It's so much fun. Right? Where are you failing? Where is the pyramid falling? Which is what I call this. So the first thing is going to annoy some people right off the bat. And that is the one that you see right here is obsession. You have to have a fair amount of obsession for your business to work. And one of my favorite stories around this is a Paula Deen story where she talks about sitting at the Thanksgiving table, and I think her boys were in high school, and she was distracted and she was getting up and she was taking phone calls, and her son looked at her and said, "Mom, you're obsessed with this business." This was kind of when she was just leaving the catering business and moving into more of the big time. And he said, "You're obsessed with this business." And she leaned forward at the table and looked at him and said, "You're absolutely right. And I tend to be obsessed until you never have to be." And I wrote a newsletter years and years ago called, it was Name. You know how you can put people's name into the email subtitle. So I'll just say Garrick. It was, "I'm having an affair with Garrick." So whoever was receiving the email got that. Now, I did get a lot of interesting responses from spouses and people who shared email addresses, which I didn't even know that still happened in the world. Like, I share an email address with my spouse. That's creepy. If that's you, that's creepy. But the point was, I talked about how in the beginning, my business was a little bit like an affair. I remember sneaking off to work on it, right? Because you're like, I'm going to get made fun of again by my family or by my friends or, or by whatever it is. And so it is required to have this fair amount of obsession to make it work. And those of you that have been in business a while, whether you're in this room or on the Facebook Live, we can lose obsession because you accomplish something or you do something or you nail it. And I think one of the key secrets and one of the key ingredients is you've got to reignite an obsession. It doesn't mean with the whole business, it can be with a division of the business, but you have to have obsession for the business to work. The next is you have to have and ability to engage in confrontation, right? So John Wooden did not use confrontation or obsession. These are my words. He used different ideas around it that relate to basketball. But, I was just at a basketball game last night. Let's think about basketball. You've got to be willing to confront the ball. You've got to be willing to confront the person dribbling down the court and you're trying to block the shot. Business does not work without confrontation, right? Business does not work unless you are willing to confront your clients, to confront your competitors, to confront yourself, to confront employees. You have to be willing to have a fair amount of confrontation. So I'll ask those of you in this room, you can answer out loud or raise your hand if you want to, and especially those of you on Facebook Live, how many of you are a little afraid of confrontation? Now, women in the room, why are you afraid of confrontation? Let's just go honest, just say.
I want people to be mad at me.
Don't like people to be mad at me.
I want them to like me.
I want them to like me.
I want them to like me too.
Right? So as a nation, or I say as a nation, as a world, I believe, I do think this falls a little more on women than it does men in my experience of the coaching I've done over the years, is that women would rather be liked than be successful. And the truth of the matter is, and this is for a whole different Facebook Live, I won't go too deep here, I could do a whole thing on this. The truth of the matter is, you've got to have some people dislike you to be successful. It is impossible to be successful and be liked by everyone. It is impossible to win a ball game and never confront another player or the ball, right? Now, do you have to be mean and do that? No. Do you have to? And I didn't hear a woman say this, but I also think there's a lot of things. I think a lot of the time it's that I don't want to be a bitch. I think
It's perceived as being emotional.
Perceived as being emotional.
Judged.
For guys, if you do ever struggle with this, a lot of times I hear especially the day and age we live in now, I don't want to be perceived as a bully, right? Or I don't want to be perceived as using authority or power, right? But it is required. We have a sales trainer in the room, actually. You can't close sales without confrontation. You have to confront people on why is that your belief? Or why do you not think you have the money to do this, right? So confrontation is required. I won't spend too much time on this loyalty, right? At some point, you need to be loyal to your values. You need to be loyal to your mission, to your team, to the reason you started this or did this anyway, family, whatever that looks like, so loyalty. You also have to be a connector. Susan and I actually were talking about this morning about someone we both know. We're they're an amazing connector, and business requires you to connect. It's funny, my wife, Melanie, runs the behind the scenes of the business. The reason she runs the behind the scenes of the business is she hates people. No, all of them. Really. She's one of those people that wakes up and goes, it's going to be a good day, except there's people, right? There's people, and that's such a challenge. But she's brilliant at the back end of that. And because she's not the massive connector, she's also very good at cutting through the BS when you have to deal with a contract issue or you have to deal with an emotional client or someone, because she actually doesn't take that on. Most of us in this room and most of us watching this Facebook Live, we are living in the emotion. We are coaches and consultants, and we are trainers, and we are human resources people, and we are all about the connection online and offline. And so you got to be a connector for it to work. Resourcefulness. Again, John Wooden didn't use the word resourcefulness, but for business, I've seen so many people who stop right before they problem solve. You have to be, the part that I would add to this in resourcefulness is you have to be a problem solver. So let me give you a stat, and Facebook Livers watching this, I want to hear your opinion on this statistic. Only 20% of everything my company does works. So I have a company that makes multiple $1 million, and we have for the last, been successful for the last 11 years, but have made multiple millions for the last 7, 8 years. And only 20% of everything we do works. So there's an amazing moment where the chief marketing officer of Coca-Cola tells the board of, have you guys heard this before? Tells the board of directors, he says, we spent $500 million last year on marketing. They said, yes, we see that in the budget. He goes, good news is 50% worked. We got an incredible return on investment. And somebody says, what's the bad news? He goes, we don't know which 50%. Because that's kind of how marketing works. That's kind of how business works. So you have to be a problem solver, right? You have to know that there are, you have to get to the end. You've got to solve a million problems. You can't stop. You have to be resourceful. You have to be scrappy. You have to keep going. That's also, again, John Wooden, that's what basketball teams do. They run a play. The other team catches on to that play. So the next time down the court, they run a different play, right? So you've got to be resourceful. You have to have specific intention. Guys, one of the biggest mistakes I see in business owners, especially beginning business owners, is they throw marketing spaghetti up against the wall. Well, I saw a live stream on this, and I read a book on that, and I went to an event where they said this worked, and so I'm just going to take all this, and I'm going to keep throwing it up against the wall, and I hope something works, and I figure something out, and there is no context for it. There's no business model that supports it, right? There is simply, we're in the information age right now, right, guys? I mean, I'm not going to tell you something you can't find on your smartphone, right? The problem is we don't know what to do with the information. I'm getting ready to run a 3-day boot camp next week called Marketing Mastery School, and I'm getting ready to run it, and I think the way I'm going to start it out is right now, what is everybody selling? Anybody know? Planners, right? It's the big push for a planner, a scheduler, a calendar system, all of this. And I just get tickled, right? Because people don't need a planner, they need a plan, right? They have nothing to put in the planner. And so my point is people are running their businesses off of tools as opposed to strategy, right? So you've got to have specific intention. You have to have innovation is the next one. You've got to be innovative. So I absolutely, before I got here this morning, and I was here at about 8:40, I watched 3 news programs. I read about 5 or 6 periodicals. I went through 4 or 5 news filters. I read 3 major newspapers, and I read a chapter in a book. Because it's my job to know more than you. If I got to this room this day, and let me just show you, these look like really smart people. We don't know yet, but they look, put your smart face on. Everybody got their smart face on? No, but they came to spend 2 days with me, and it's my job to be innovative, right? It's my job to know what's going on in the world and know what's going on in business and know what's going on. And if you're in health, it's your job to be innovative because you're in health. If you are in communications, it's your job to know everything about that so you can be innovative in that topic, right? I walked into a room not long ago of a bunch of health people in the room, and I said, oh my God, what's the hot topic right now? And it was this big article that like 3 different studies from major medical institutions had said, it's all been a lie. Breakfast is not the healthiest meal of the day. You don't even need to eat breakfast to be healthy. And it was a study that came out in the 1970s by, guess who? Kellogg, who said that, right? And not a single person in the room had read news. I mean, it was the top news story on 3 things, right? You're innovative by informing yourself. You also have to be a quick start. Write this down, everybody. The person who implements first wins, right? Ideas are worthless. The implementation of ideas is money, right? So the person who can implement first will always win, even if you implement first and fail, right? Even if it doesn't work or it wasn't a good idea, you have to be able to quick start, right? You have to be able to consistently get going and keep going. I'm going to spend a lot of time on these 2, actually. The next is self-control. Entrepreneurs struggle with self-control. I heard several of the people in this room just introducing themselves this morning saying, I don't stay focused, right? I'm all over the place. It's a bunch of different ideas. And one of the keys to success is how much can you not do, right? How much can you control yourself from not doing? And I think that an entrepreneur's job is to say yes to everything and find somebody else to do it. Let me say it again, right? Is to say yes to everything and find somebody else to do it. Obviously, there's some things you should say no to, but the idea is, how much can I do, right? How much can we put out there, but how little can I do? So for years and years and years, I've done the same thing. I have an 80-20 rule on a list. I live by my list. I'm a big list maker. Every night of my life, I spend 15 minutes preparing for the next day. I've been doing that for the last actually 14 or 15 years. On that list, when I make what I want to happen tomorrow, what I want to accomplish tomorrow, I make sure that I only keep 20% of the list. So one of two things has to happen. It either has to be delegated to someone or something else, or it has to be eliminated, right? It's a great way to stay focused on what you're supposed to be doing or what you should be doing. Moving up here, team and support. You can't do it alone. I won't spend a lot of time on this. I think it's obvious. You need the right team supporting you. You need the right support supporting you, which ties in beautifully to what we just said, in that you need to decide what you do and have the self-control to only do the things that you should be doing, and you need team and support to do it. You got to have skill. And I do want to spend just a minute on this because it makes me effing crazy. How many of you, I'm actually going to turn this to see hands. How many of you in this room, can we see this room, have someone in your industry that you may not know them personally, but know of them, and they have incredible following, you know they're making a lot of money, and you're like, I'm not sure they know what the hell they're talking about. Be honest, right? It's every industry, right? I mean, it's every single industry. And so the beauty of the world we live in right now is that you could be on a Facebook Live in 4 minutes and have an audience and get in front of people, right? You can put videos on YouTube and get seen. You can post on Instagram and get a following and get people to listen to you. The reverse of that is any idiot can do it. So I truly believe that we are in the expert decade. Let me explain what that means. I think we are moving into the expert decade. I think that the last decade was the influencer decade. It was, if I can be savvy and smart enough, is this making sense, everybody? If I can be savvy and smart enough to get a following, to get somebody to pay attention, then I win. I think this decade is, if I know my shit, if I'm really good at it, if I get results, if I have proof, and I am innovative, and I am at the top of my game, I win. And I think we're going to see a lot of things fall off. We got to sit here as I'm on Facebook Live using a social platform and realize social platforms have all the control. And when that happens, we're in trouble. We know that Instagram is getting rid of likes, right? They're testing getting rid of likes. So we're never sure what's going to happen next in terms of the influencer piece of this. So you want to be the expert piece of this. So you want your skill level to be so high and so good at what you do that Lori may come in and say, you know, I worked with Sally Johnson, Suzanne, and Sally Johnson is a fake person, just so you guys know. And, you know, I know she has 1 billion followers, and she does these lives all the time, and it's just so, but, you know, I'm still not quite there, so I thought I'd come work with you. I'm just so good at what I do, you go, oh, this is the meat, right? This is the meat. I think we've been in the decade of dessert, and I think we're moving into the decade of meat. Does that make sense, everybody, right? Yeah. So that means know your skill. All right, my favorite one on the list, conditioning.
Turn the camera.
Oh, because they can't see the thing. You were right. Thank you so much. Thank God I have these people here. My favorite one up here, conditioning. So I'm going to tell you 2 basketball stories that I think the people in this room, if you took these 2 stories to heart, you could walk out and you don't need anything else the next 2 days. The first one is John Wooden, how he started his practice for 35 years. So it would be the start of a season. He would bring his guys into starting practice. And for the first week of practice, does anybody know what he did? Don't tell if you know it. For the first week, do you know?
Putting on your socks and tying your shoes the right way.
Learning to put on your socks and tie your shoes. because everything starts with foundation, right? And if you have the right conditioning, you can build the right ball team, business, life. And he was famous to say, it gives me chills for some reason every time I say it, a blister will bring down a giant. Think about that. Think about that. A blister will bring down a giant, right? And so my question to you, which you don't need to answer out loud in this room, although you can, it's a free country. Do you have the conditioning in place, right? Do you have the foundation in place, right? Do you have the conditioning and the foundation in place? I'll tell you, when I am stuck, when my business needs a kick in the pants, when I'm struggling, and all those things happen to me in my business, I go back to fundamentals. I go back to what I know will work without Facebook. I go back to what I know will work without algorithms and crazy tech and data. And I go back to conditioning, and I get my team in a room and I go, let's put our socks on. Right? We got lazy and stopped wearing socks. Right? And so, do you have the conditioning in place? And this goes up to the next one here, which is my other favorite basketball coach story, which is the being. Right? How did you walk into this room this morning? Right? Were you confused? Were you annoyed? Did you, stump your toe in the parking lot? Are you annoyed because your team did something and you're not focused, right? How are you showing up in your business? How are you showing up with your clients? What is your being? And just like John Wooden started with socks and tying shoes, my very favorite coach of all time, Jimmy Valvano, who was the coach of the 1983 NC State Cinderella team who won the championship, he brought his team in, and the first thing they did the first week of practice was they drug a ladder to the net and they practiced cutting down the nets. Now, if you don't know anything about basketball, I hate you, but just in case, you cut down the nets when you win a championship. And he said, people don't practice winning enough. Oh, I get emotional every time I say it. Take it in for a second. We don't practice winning. I have a 3-year-old, and I did a talk about a year ago, and I was asked actually to speak on parenting. And I spoke on the fact that we've stopped teaching kids how to win, right? We've stopped teaching kids how to win. And they grow up to be adolescents and they grow up to be adults who don't know how to win. And there's a lot of elements to winning. There's being a gracious, lovely winner. There's just getting the win. There's being hungry for the win. And so in your being, I would ask you, do you practice winning? When I say that, do you even know what it means for you, right? Do you know what it means to practice winning? And Facebook Livers, guys, this is what I'm saying. If you don't get anything else from the next 2 days or the next 5 minutes on this Facebook Live, you could walk out of this room and go, shit, I'm gonna figure out how to practice winning, and it would be a game changer for every single one of you. And, with a 3-year-old, I'm constantly, people are saying, what's the most important thing? And I'm like, that he wins. And people are so offended by that. They're just absolutely taken back. And I'm like, if he doesn't learn to win, he doesn't learn to lose. Right? You cannot learn to lose unless you learn to win. And as an adult and as entrepreneurs and as business owners, I go, what does winning even look like? I mean, a lot of you have these random numbers on paper of where you want to get and if I really bash your head in a little bit and go, why that number? Why that amount? Why that many clients? Why that? A lot of times people can't tell me because you don't have an understanding of what the win looks like for you, and you don't have an understanding of practicing winning. And so when Jimmy V tells that story and he talks about that, and he also says, you have to realize, I was always recruiting, for the most part, kids who were coming from difficult situations, quite often, difficult upbringings, hard situations. And he goes, they were playing for the love of the game, but they didn't grow up in households where people were winning.
Role models.
and they didn't see winning. And so I also ask you, have you built an office or a home or an environment where you're consistently seeing winning, right? And you can model winning. And you can model what it takes to have a drive and a hunger for that win, right? I could talk on that for 3 days, so we're going to move on. But this it moves into confidence, right? And confidence is required and cannot be taught. That you want to write that down. Confidence is required and it cannot be taught. It can be developed through all of these other things. Does that make sense, everybody? When you are doing all of these other things and you are consistently doing these things and you are nailing these other things, it can be, you can develop it, but you can't teach confidence. So if you ever see a program that's like, confidence boosting blueprint, save your money. Because you can't teach confidence. But it comes from all of this. So here's the fun part. All right, those of you on Facebook Live, hopefully you saw these or you could see enough, but those of you in the room, take a moment to circle the 3 you suck at. In the success pyramid, what are the 3 areas? Obsession, confrontation, loyalty, connection, resourcefulness, specific intention, innovation, quick start, self-control, team and support, skill, conditioning, confidence, and being. What are the 3 that you struggle with the most? And Facebook Livers watching us, if you want to share your 3, I would love it. I would love for you to be vulnerable and post in here the 3 areas that you are challenged with the most. And then I will share what that means, actually. I'll share what that means.
Suzanne, what was loyalty again?
Loyalty, I didn't talk about it a lot because it's loyal to your team, it's loyal to your values, it really is what you think it means,
okay.
Right?
Recap being.
Being is who you are in the world, how you show up. Yeah. And while you're writing that down, and those of you on Facebook Live, hopefully a couple of you will point out 1 or 2 or 3 that maybe you are challenged with. And I just want to say hi while they're writing this down because Dr. Michelle Joy Brown, she's always on my Facebook Lives. And doesn't she have the best name?
Yes, ma'am.
It is. Christine, hey Christine. And Lauren, hey Lauren. Jessica and Audrey and Kitty and Maria and the other Christine. There's 2 of you. And Shannon and Donna and Jennifer and hello to all of you. Okay, so anybody in this room willing to share what one of theirs was? Yeah. Conditioning. So fundamentals, right? So because here's the thing. I see so many people who come into BAMs like this with me or just in general and they go, they really want a wallpaper. And I'm like, you haven't even poured a floor. Right? It's like you've got to have the foundation to make the rest work. Absolutely. Anybody else have a different one?
Self-control.
Self-control. It is the demise of the entrepreneur, right? The ability to do only what you need to do to get the result you want to get, and also the ability to make sure that you are saying no to the things you need to say no to, and everything you can say yes to doesn't mean you're doing it all and trying it all.
That's big.
Absolutely.
Which leads to team support.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One more. Somebody else.
Specific intention.
Obsession. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Then you're doing the wrong thing. But but I know it can be scary for somebody to say it's obsession because that usually can be an indicator if you're doing the wrong thing. But it's also refreshing because that's so easy to fix. You're a smart marketer, David. You're a passionate person. You have drive. You have hustle. You've got charisma. So if you just get on the right track, right, it's going to be easier. It's going to be easier. I love that. I love that. So I am going to get off of Facebook Live here in just a second because I'm going to go back to these folks and we're actually going to go deep with this and I'm going to show you a next step. There's a next step to this, which is kind of the big enchilada of all of this, and I'm going to walk you guys through that. But I wanted to share this. I was teaching it anyway, so I wanted to share this for our Facebook Live today. And I thank you guys for letting me do this via Facebook Live, the members of the BAM here. And you guys want to say bye?
Bye.
Bye. All right, we're going to work for 2 days. Thank you. We'll be back here, actually, because I'll be doing a Q&A session with them tomorrow at 10 a.m. So we're going to let you be a part of that as well. And you bring a couple of questions, and we'll answer those as well. Bye, everybody. Have an awesome day.